Hello, everybody, and welcome to Work Better Wednesday. I'm Rebecca Ryan.
And I'm Libby Castro.
We are the collaborators, co-founders, co-authors of the Work Better Project. And this Wednesday, we want to come at you with our hot takes on article number 2, which Libby took the lead on. We want to share how people are responding to this and what our hot takes are on their responses. And then we have a very important and exciting invitation for you. So, Libby, article number 2, this was your baby, largely your perspective. What are you pumped about with article 2?
Oh, thank you. This was so great. And for everybody out there, this was definitely a collaboration. Rebecca's being kind. We started with, just the fundamentals of like, how do you start? This has been such a difficult, last few years, different than anything that we've ever known. There's not an expert to fall back on, people who have experience with this thing. So, it can feel very insecure, this whole time. So as a manager, as a CEO, sometimes I think it's like, where do you even begin to analyze this? So I think that's what I'm most proud of, is we have a starting point here. I think as you and I were talking offline, Rebecca, it's also important to remember that even though we started here with these basic questions, these root questions that we're talking about, I think it's important to know that every organization, every campus, every corporation is different. So always go into it with an open mind and be prepared that some of the responses that you might get will send your research off in a different direction, and go with that, because that's what will make the end result very successful.
Yeah, I love that, Libby. And I think, one of the things that I think we misunderstood in the before times about COVID is that because we all officed in the same place, we were all on the same page, about what the company was about and what our noble purpose was and those things. And that was false, I think, for a lot of organizations. Just because we're in proximate space to each other doesn't mean we're all on the same page. So one of the great opportunities, and that's where those first root questions lie, is really understanding, why do we exist? How do we provide value to clients? What's the right way for us to do that? So, one of the things, Libby, that you've mentioned before is like, for all the crap that we give technology, it has been an enormous enabler of our people's connectivity to each other. Do you want to say a little bit more about tech and the workspace?
Yeah, well, I think this is what technology was designed to do, is what we're doing right now. I mean, what you and I are doing, like even writing this article. I've been in San Francisco, I'm in Georgia right now. You've been in North Carolina, Madison. Historically, we used to have to get together to do these kind of things and write it. So who knows when this would have gotten done, had we not had this technology. Had we not had this technology to, I spent a good amount of time in California during COVID, and I was able to stay really connected with my team, and, we were able to move projects forward, and it was a really positive experience. And that's what I think, the Steve Jobs of the world meant when they started all these great things. Technology gets such a bad rap for, the social media presence that it has today. But here is a really positive spin on technology, and thank goodness for it, because like we were saying, we wouldn't have been able to do what we're doing now. So
I think it's further proof too that like the toothpaste isn't going back in the tube, because when you look at how Microsoft is arming up around Teams, what Zoom is doing with all of its product releases, what Google is doing with its suite of Office products, they are all in, doubling, tripling their year-over-year investments to help these virtual and hybrid work models work better for people. So it's interesting how technology can shape the workplace, right? But how we work can also shape that technology. And, it's all of a piece. It's all of a piece. So why don't we talk a little bit about some of the feedback we've gotten to article number 2. It had a naughty title. The F word was part of the title. And by the way, the F word was flexibility, if you haven't downloaded it or read it yet. But Libby, what have you been hearing? What has the response been? And what's your hot take on those responses?
Yeah, it's been really positive, and thank everybody for your feedback, because we really want to hear from you and what you think, and if this is working. And but it's been really positive in that people are saying it's really timely right now. I think that, we had to take a pause. Nobody really knew what that meant. Like you and I were saying offline, Rebecca, the Googles and the Zooms and the Teams of the world they're always going to figure out their own technology and their ways forward, because they have that opportunity. But there's some other organizations that are feeling like a little still, untethered, a little lost in what to do next. So that's why I think the questions again, is what I've gotten a lot of feedback on, of great questions, great timing. So I think people are looking for that resource of, where do I go, how do I start this conversation? And I think the great thing about what we're doing, Rebecca, is you're data driven, you're research based. So I think that feels really good for the managers, CEOs of the world to say, like, this is what the data is showing, and this is what the people are saying. And then I come at it from, of course, a design, but all of that research is really important to me to understand, what is happening, and psychologically, sometimes also physically, what's happening, and then to be able to design toward those unique features. So the other thing I think is cool is we can step in some different ways. We can certainly run a project and run the design of the project as well, but we can also just help teams. Like, if you already have your team and then they just, because like I said, nobody's done this before, so you kind of fall back on those researchers, those futurists, those economists, those designers who have experience with large corporations, large groups of people, kind of making sure that everybody is heard. So that's kind of what I've been hearing, and I really appreciate that feedback.
Yeah, same here. I mean, my hot take on the great timing comments that we're getting is that we had sort of the first wave of companies like Airbnb and Salesforce announce we're going to be remote first. So they were putting their flag in the ground, like, we're going to be remote first and we're going to figure it out. And that was while a lot of organizations, even like really old line organizations like law firms and utility companies, like old firms, were saying, well, we're just going to keep it flexible for now. But I think now we're on at this second wave where even those companies are now saying, what is the optimal configuration? I heard you use the term destination-based working versus remote working, right? So what is the right configuration of things? And so I think that's why the good timing question is coming out. We've heard from, an administrator of a rural healthcare center saying her response was, "This is effing awesome," a play on the title. And she's like, "I'm passing this around to everybody, because in a healthcare world where you can do 40 to 60% of your visits via telemedicine, how should we bring people back in?" Utility companies, some work is definitely place-based. It is difficult, unless you're using drones or high tech, to fix utility lines. You got to climb the pole usually to do those things, or get underneath, the surface. So those things are very place-based. But for everybody else, what is the right mix? And so we're just going to continue to get smarter and smarter about this. But I love that we're having to go back to basics and saying, how can people, the 2 C's that I talk about all the time, how can they be connected, to purpose, to each other? Because those affiliative connections are so critical to getting the best out of people. And how can they make their highest point of the second C, contribution? And some of those things are place-based, destination-based, and others aren't. So, all right, you audience have heard the cat's out of the bag with article number 2, the F word at work, flexibility. You've heard our hot takes on some of the responses, the people who are picking this up and moving it forward in their organization. Now, Libby, something's coming up. What would we like to invite everybody to?
April 12th at noon Central, we are going to have Work Better Wednesday opportunity to talk to Rebecca and I live, and we are going to answer questions. We're going to hear from you. We're going to listen and see what everybody's reaction is. And we're so excited. We're so excited to meet you all live.
Yes, we're thrilled. Sign up now. We are making sure that we have enough room. We've had to bump up our Zoom license in order to make sure nobody gets sorry, the room has exceeded its capacity. So we're looking forward to seeing you live on Wednesday, April 12th at noon Central. The registration link will be in the notes here for the video. And Libby, our next article, the third and final one so far as planned in the series, is scheduled to come out by April 10th. And certainly if you're subscribed to my newsletter, if you're connected with us on LinkedIn, if you are connected with Libby, you will have first dibs on seeing that. So Libby, you're a great collaborator. Thanks for everything.
Thank you so much. It's been so great.